I am not here to debate with anyone. I only debate with my equals. All others I teach.
Last week, I did a video about how a woman's age affects her sexual market value over time. And I got a lot of pushback from black women, even though the video and the article really didn't specify black women or white women for the most part. It was just a generic video about dating data from various sources over a period of time that coincided with other similar data from other dating sites over the last 10 to 12 years. I thought it was pretty much a ho-hum generic article and video, but I got a lot of pushback from black women. And it's similar to the pushback that I get from black women when I actually talk about dating, mating, and sexual market value. And the thing that I get constantly about this kind of thing and from black women is that for whatever reason, black women tend to vastly overrate their sexual market value. And anything that pushes back against it, I get a lot of vitriol. And I got so much pushback that I started to get angry, and I started to put out a video with a lot less nicer name than the one I'm going to put on this one. But it got me to thinking, it got me to wanting to do something a little different, where I actually put out the data. I've been collecting the data for quite some time, since like around 2010, maybe even like 2009. And what I wanted to do is put some numbers to this sexual market value and dating approach, because what black men get is a lot of propaganda from black women and from the general society that they're not valued and they're not worthy of anything. And they project black women as the prize, as the sought after thing and the rare commodity, when it's the exact opposite thing. And a lot of people don't understand the sexual market value or the sex ratio. So this video is going to be about who really is the prize and who really is the valuable commodity and why. The first thing we have to identify what makes a commodity or even a person valuable. One, what can they get for it? What can they produce? And the second thing is, how rare is it as compared to everything else? So the first thing we're going to look at is what we call the sex ratio. Now, the sex ratio is something done all over the world in demographics and the census that compares the ratio of males, or the number of males to the number of females in a particular group. That is your sex ratio, or your gender ratio, depending on how you want to call it, the male to female ratio. It's normally given in the number of males over females. In other words, if the sex ratio is 100, that means there's one female for every one male. If the sex ratio is higher, that means, say like the average sex ratio is like 105, that means there's 105 males to every 100 females, and vice versa. So whatever the top number is, the number they give is that compared to 100 females. Say like if you take a place like Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. has the sex ratio of 87, which is 87 males for every 100 females. So there's 13 less males to go around. If we all got 100 women in a group and put all the same ratio of males in a group, there'd be 13 females that would be left out. Anyway, let's get started with the first piece of evidence, the first article. The first article we're actually going to look at, and we're just going to look at it briefly because we don't want to make this too long. I'll put the link in the description. done by an African doctor, Amadou Jackie Kaba. And she looked at the sex ratio at birth and racial differences. And she, why do black women give birth to more females than non-black women? She noted that black women give birth to like 2 to 3% more females than the rest of the world, than the other groups, the other racial groups. So there are less males born as a ratio than other groups. So as far as other groups are concerned, if you look, just looking at the males, we start off with a deficit of males right from birth. Now here in this chart, she compares Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, to the rest of the world, and to also to Northern Africa, where they're mixed type. So the black sub-Saharan African women have a sex birth ratio of 103 compared to Northern Africa at 105 and the rest of the world at 106. I think the highest was somewhere in the Middle East, where it was almost 2 to 1 males versus females. So you can see that, and black women, and she said that black women in the United States have a similar pattern of producing basically the same ratio, male to female, which is 103 males to every 100 females, the exact same pattern. Whereas United States, for all the rest of the population, it's 105 or 106. As she says, sub-Saharan Africa give birth to fewer males when compared to Europe or other parts of the world. So also do black women in the U.S. give birth to fewer males when compared to whites and other groups. She says, for example, the number of white baby boys born in the United States in the year 2002 per 1,000 white baby girls was 1,050, and that the number of black boys born in the United States in 2002 per 1,000 black girl babies was 1,032. According to Bogart, for white populations, the sex ratio is 106 male live births to 100 female live male births. All right, the next thing we're going to get into is the ratio of men to women as far as a percentage. And this is coming from blackdemographics.com. That's taking census data and actually making it more readable. First thing we're going to look at is the total population. 39 million at the time. This was from 2010 census, the last census we've had. We had 39 million, almost 40 million black folks, African Americans. 47.7 male, 52.3 female. So we have a difference of about maybe, was it 5%? We started out as with slightly more black males than females, and throughout the whole lifespan, because black males do die earlier, we wind up with 5% more females than black males. So right there, we're at a deficit. But you're saying that old folks don't count because that's well after the sexual market value or the prime productive rates of black males and black females are over with, which is true. By the time you get to 65 years and over, that is less than 10% of the population. So the effect of the older black females is actually lessened. Here's where it gets interesting. Right here is where we saw that the initial ratio where you have slightly more boys than girls, right around 3% more. And as we get up to the years 18 years and older, it still holds about a 2% advantage of males and females under 18 years of age. You can see that, like I said, it switches. Where we have actually a bigger gap, because we're not including minor children. Now we're getting into adults. 18 years or older, you see there's a big gap. We're talking about like over 7%. Over a 7% gap between male and or 7% gap between males and black females. There's 7% more females as far as adults are concerned. And here's where the rubber meets the road. In the prime reproductive years for females, between the years of 18 and 34, there's 2% more females. So you have a ratio of the inverse ratio of what we started with, which is 2 or 3% more males. That ratio has been overturned by the time you get to be 18, which is your prime reproductive years. And so now you're missing, just on the fact of numbers, you're missing 2% male. There's a 2% deficit of males to females. And it only gets worse when you get into the male's prime earning years. You got to remember, the prime earning years for males is between the ages of 35 to 55. So if the prime earnings for males or black males period is between the ages of 35 to 55 as compared to the rest of the population, you're missing, like I say, 7% of your males. So if we go 1-to-1, that means there's 7 to 10% of your females that don't have a mate to correspond with. And of course, as we get past that in retirement age, we know that black men die early, so they just get completely out of whack. But just on sheer numbers alone of adult black males, they're missing. So even before we start counting all the other problems that are associated with mating in black males and females, just the raw numbers, everything else was perfect. Everything else was perfect. There was no other underlying issues. It's just a matter of numbers. There still wouldn't be quite enough black males. But this is just a start. There's other things that are going to be associated with this particular problem. Why black males or productive black males are a prize. Now, we've dealt with the elephant in the room that in the productive black males or the adult black males within the effective range of between 18 and 65 or 18 and 55, that there's a deficit of between 2 and 7%. So in other words, between 2 and 7% productive adult black males aren't there to match up with their female counterparts. So there's a deficit right there. So now we're going to deal with the next elephant in the room, so to speak, which is incarceration. Incarceration affects the black population on multiple levels. One, they tend to be younger. So the biggest impact of incarceration are males between the ages of 18 and 34, which is the prime productive age for your females. And then it affects the earnings of the males when they get out, because if you get a felony, there's some people that will not hire you depending on what the felony is, and takes productive black men out of the workforce. And that's something we're going to get into a little later, but right now we're going to deal with just the missing black men, especially during their prime productive years. If we look at state and federal prison, there's an average of about 560,000 black men, or about 6% of black men in their prime productive years that won't be not only in the workforce but not present. They're going to be locked up behind bars and away from the black female, so they add to the deficit. And when you add the local jail incarceration, you add another 250 to 300,000. So you have over 800,000 black men, sometimes close to 1 million black men that are going to be missing. They're going to be in prison or in jail and out of the population. So it's not just one thing when we're talking about missing black males. It's not just they're not here or not born or in jail or even killed, because there's a certain number that do get killed, that die early. As you see, it's reflected in your demographics, but also the ones that are locked up. So the ones that are out and are productive are even rarer. And even when these men get out, they're going to have problems obtaining employment and obtaining work, at least enough work to actually take care of a family. Which makes the ones that can take care of a family that are productive way, way, way more valuable, because it's just less of them. Okay, this is back to the PDF, the American Family, published by Black Demographics. We're looking at the employment status, or the labor force, America versus the Black American family. Okay, population 16 years and over is 30 million, slightly more than the 18 years and over, but they usually measure your workforce when you first get your work permit at 16. So the main factor back in the day, traditionally, your workforce is between 15 and 45, or 15 and 55 now, because of our modern environment, where you don't need as much brute force, as much physical labor. So there's 30 million black people in the labor force, adult over 16 years of age. 16 million of them are black female. They give you the breakdown of the labor force, and the employed, only half of them are employed. And at the time, 10% unemployment, which is pretty close to where we are right now. As you notice, it's a little. You notice black females are almost the same as the rest of the population, whereas white females are less in the workforce. Interesting side note. So black women have always worked, have always been in the labor force. So there's 16 million black females that are in the labor force, a population of 16 million, all over 16 years old. So that means on the opposite side, there's 14 million black males. And the black civilian population force, of course, is right around half of the 30 million, which is about 15 million. And here's the interesting part. This is where it gets interesting. Out of the 14 million, probably 14 million black males over the age of 16, only half of them, or 7 million, are employed. Only half of them are employed. So there's only 17, from 16 to 65, or 55 or 65, only half of your black males are employed. Only 7 million of them. And this factor is going to come in a little later when we go to the this other chart. About the same, approximately the same percentage, but more of black females are employed because there's more of them. It's the same percentage of black males and black females are employed. I think it's slightly higher for black females as far as a percentage, but since there's 2 million more black females, adult black females, you're going to have a higher percentage, like 1.5 million more black females are employed than black males. Interesting. But I want you to hone in on this fact, because this is going to come back. Remember that number, 7 million black males are employed. Employable black males, which is about half of the population. And we're going to go through some other numbers. Now, here's some other numbers I want to hone in on. Now, the median household income in dollars for most of America is $51,000. Median income for household in Black America is $33,000, which is damn near $20,000 less. And we're using median. In other words, median is halfway between, so 50% above and 50% below, because the mean actually skews it, because you can have some people that are very wealthy, and you have to average that in with somebody that doesn't make hardly anything, so your mean is going to be skewed. But we want to concentrate on what the median, in other words, the 50 percentile, that's actually going to get you into what we call the middle class. Median household income for a black family is $33,000, which is $20,000 less than the average American middle class. So to live an average American middle class lifestyle, you need about $50,000, and that's going to become important. I'm going to run through a couple of more figures. The median family income for black folks, I suppose it's a family of four, it's about 40 grand, opposed to 62 grand for white folks. Median income is $65,000 versus $76,000 for white folks. And this is for a male householder. No spouse present. Nah, it's wrong. Male householder, no spouse present, is $33,000, which is the median income of the household up here. Female householder, no husband present, is $25,000. Now, here's my kicker. If we notice the median earnings full-time year-round workers for white folks, for most folks, Americans, the average is about $47,000, which is close to the $50,000 that you need. But for black males, it's $37,000, and for black females, $33,000 for a full-time worker. So it takes two full-time workers to basically get to the point where you can have a stable middle-class family lifestyle. But for a man by himself to take care of a family, you're going to need right around this amount of money or above, right around $50,000, which is the golden mean, which is what is the minimum desirable for a man if you can get him. In other words, a good man should earn close to $50,000 so he can possibly, if need be, take care of a whole family by himself in a standard American middle-class lifestyle. And that's gonna, like I said, that's gonna become apparent and important in the next chart I'm going to show right after this. Now, this is from the Wall Street Journal, and it comes from a 2016 article, What Percent Are You? And it calculates you put in your yearly earnings, and it'll calculate where you fall as far as a percentage of a certain population. And it shows a graph where you fall as far as a percentile. Say right now there's $27,000 in 2014. If you earn $27,000, that will put you as 50% of all Americans who earn money in 2014. That will put you right in the middle. You'll be right at 50%. And it has several check boxes like sex, male, female, race and ethnicity, your generation or your cohort, millennials, Gen X, boomers, and the World War II or silent generation, greatest generation, and your level of educational attainment. I'll put the link in the description. You can actually go run some numbers from this chart. It's fairly accurate because we're going by literally the last census that we had. So what we're going to do is we're going to calculate a few things. One where black males, not black females, we're going to talk about black males. One where black males fall as far as the 50% percentile. And then we're going to punch in where the top 10% is, where the top 1% is, blah, blah, blah. We're going to actually punch in some numbers. So we're going to go here. We're not going to check, we're going to check male. And we're going to check race and ethnicity, which is going to be black. We're not going to check out any generational stuff because we're working with the whole population, and we're not going to check highest level of educational attainment, because for our needs that's probably irrelevant right now. So we're going to check black and male, and then we're going to go up here and we're going to start calculating some percentiles. I've done some of this before, so I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think 50%, like $27,000 will put you over the 50% percentile, the 44th percentile. So you're 6% over the midway mark. So you're a little bit higher than most of the average black folks that are underneath you. So here we go. Also got to remember, there's only 7 million working black men. Remember that total. There's only 7 million working adult black males. Some are retired. I think there's 20% of black males don't have any registered earnings. This only shows the earnings of people that actually showed an income. So we're going to punch in, I do believe, 23,000. Gives us the 50th percentile. So if there's a black male that earns $23,000, they're at the 50th percentile. If we calculate that out, there's 3.5 million black males that actually earn $23,000 or more. But according to black demographics, the median household income for a black family was what? $33,000. So for black men alone, just to hit the median for a poor black middle class lifestyle or a low income black middle class lifestyle, he'd have to earn $33,000 a year. And depending on where you live, that can be sufficient in most urban areas. On the West Coast or the East Coast, $33,000 is not going to go very far, especially for a family of four. But if you just look at it, the man that earns that amount of money is in the 36th percentile. So at the 36th percentile, there's only 2.5 million black men that can actually fill this position of taking care of family at that level. So you got to remember, there's almost 16.5 million adult black females that need a man. And since a black female's earnings aren't as important to a man as the man's earning is important to a woman, because a man has to be able to take care of some things on his own, this is probably the minimum that a man would have to earn to be that good black man. The minimum, the very minimum that's acceptable. And there's only 2.5 million of them for 16 million females. So in other words, that's a ratio of 1 to 8. Now, the average, the median income for the United States of all families was right around $51,000 household income. So for a standard middle class American lifestyle, you need to earn or have the household income earnings of $51,000. And it's more or less depending on where you live. Say you live in New York City, that's not shit, you're poor. Or in Los Angeles, you're poor and struggling. But for most of America, $50,000 is probably the gold standard. So for a good black man to take care of a family in a standard middle class lifestyle, he would have to earn right around $50,000 or $51,000. So we're going to make it a nice round number. We're going to put in $50,000. And that puts him at the 21st percentile, or right around 20%, to make it a nice round number. So you punch in 21%, you multiply that by 7 million, and you get a nice round number, you get a nice round number of 1.47 or 1.5. So you get only 1.5 million black men earn over $50,000, $50,000 and over. So the gold standard for a good man or a good black man is $50,000, and you only have 1.5 million of them. So for 16.5 females, black females, you only have 1.5 million males capable of meeting the gold standard. Now, I know you say women work and black women work and they have their own money, but these are the standards that black men are judged. Like I said, what a female earns, what a black woman earns, isn't as important as what a black man earns. And this is the standard that black men are judged on. And at that level, there's only 1.5 million of them. So now, while we're here, let's take a look at what it takes for a black man to be in the top 10% of all earners. Now, for a black man to be in the top 10% of all earners for black men, Most people will say it's $100,000, but it's actually $73,000, right around $75,000 to be in the top 10% of all black earners. So a lot of women are passing over truck drivers, plumbers, welders, those kind of guys, that even government workers that can bring in $73,000 or more. Police officers that can bring in $73,000 or more, that put them in the top 10% of all black male earners. So in other words, there's only 700,000 of these guys. 700,000 of these guys. So you have 16.5 million black females. And for the top 10% of all earners, that earn, which is relatively low when compared to other races of men, $73,000 is all it takes for a black male earner to be in the top 10%. And I hear a lot of sisters with their unrealistic expectations that have degrees, that want the guy to earn well over 6 figures and blah, 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 because they want to live a top 10% lifestyle. But they don't realize how few of these men, black men, there are. Now we're going to take a look and see what the top 1% actually looks like. What does it take for a black man to be in the top 1%? How many are there? Now, according to this, and this, like I said, this is a couple of years old, but I'm sure it's still pretty relevant. For, as a black male, as a black man, as a black male, to be in the first percentile, the top 1%, top 1%, takes about $170,000. So 1 out of 100, only 1 out of 100, 70,000 guys actually earn $170,000 or more. You hear me? 70,000 guys, and these are not entertainers, these are not rock stars, these are not athletes that earn millions of dollars. Your top 1% of earners, of black men, earn $170,000 or more. That's what it takes you for a black male to get into the top 1%. Let's scroll down and see how that compares. We're actually going to go back and see where that puts you as far as the rest of the men. If you're a white guy, you're down to the 5th percentile. Hispanic is second, Hispanic is second, Native American is second, Asian you're down to 6th. So in conclusion, what have we learned? A lot of black women have this false illusion that they are the valuable commodity. In a sense they are, because they have the womb. But in sheer number, there is an overabundance of black females that don't have a mate, that don't have a corresponding counterpart. Just by sheer number, black males are rare. American black males are rare just by the numbers. There's 2 million more black females, adult black females in America than there are black males. When you calculate the prison rate and the jail rate, when you take almost another million black males off the market, they become even rarer. What a black man needs to be valuable, especially in this society, becomes even more rare. Because to have a job, that's only half of your 7 million. That's 7 million for 16 million adult black females, which is less than half of what you need. I didn't even include the marry out rate, which is about 700,000. I didn't even include that. So by the time you calculate that and the marry out rate, you're down to about, like Cerulean says, about 5 million viable black males. When you calculate the black males that earn over the bare minimum percentile for a household, which is 23,000, there's only 3 million black males. When you calculate the average black household where a man should be able to support, there's only 2.5 million of them. And like I said, when you get to the gold standard of $50,000 a year, which people do not believe, I've been quoting that for a very long time. When you get to $50,000 a year, earnings as a black male to give you a regular middle class lifestyle, there's less than 1.5 million of these black men. Now, I've shown you the data. I've actually went there and shown you the data in black and white. It's not something that I'm pulling out of my ass. For 16 million black females, there's only 5 million viable black males. And for a good black man that black females want, we're not even talking about looks, we're not even talking about attitude, we're just talking about sheer earnings. There's only 1.5 million black males for 16.5 female. Now, I know what black women are going to say. I know what they're going to say, that they can actually leave black men or leave Blackistan and go to the other side. Number one, how has that worked out for you over the last 200 years? Number two, when you cross over to the other side, you have to compete against Becky and Maria and Suleen. And that's what black women fear most. It's not about crossing over, it's about competing. Because if you look at the numbers, they don't compete very well on the other side. And you saw at the very beginning, 50% of white male earners who are far more employed and have far more privilege only earn $27,000. So that means you have 150 million females competing for those top slots. So anybody earning over $30,000 a year, you have to compete with 150 million women, because black men and all men are judged by their earnings. So a lot of black women have it twisted. You are not going to cross over to the other side and now compete other women for their men. It's not going to happen. You're going to have to work with the men that you have. And you're going to have to start being grateful for the good men that are still out there, that are willing to still have you. Like I said, the marry-out rate is about 700,000. And most of those women marrying out are marrying those guys probably right around $40,000 or up. So that basically cuts the good black men that can take care of a family in half. So now, instead of having 1.45 or even 2 million black men to work with, now you only got one. And I'm tired of black women shitting over the 1 million men that they need to actually make a viable family, calling them lame and a few other choice words that they have for these guys. Because trust and believe, the other side, the other women know what kind of prize that these black men are. You're not fooling anybody, because you want to puff yourself up and make you look like you're the most valuable thing walking the planet. Guess what? You are not. As the esteemed Cerulean Gray says, black men oppose the environment. They oppose this racist environment. And without them opposing this racist environment, that racist environment would impose itself on you. So no, even though good black women are preferable, and there's probably a lot less of them than we care to mention. So I'm not pointing my fingers at good black women. Good black women know a good black man and they cherish him. But all you other heifers, they're in the vast majority, come to my channel talking shit, talking out of your ass. No, goddammit, you are not the prize. You never were. Even in the beginning, when they put us on boats, 95% of the people they put on boats were men. Even under Jim Crow wasn't passed because it was passed because they needed black men back as a labor force. Even the society that opposes and cracks down on black people, they're cracking down on black men. Black men are your prize. Black men are the jewel that you constantly cast away. When you cast away your black boys, you cast away your future. Wonder why the black society is not doing very well? Because we do not respect, value, and prize the jewels that we have, which are our black males. And it shows in this society. With this changing environment under DJ Trump and those of his ilk that will come after him, I said it before. You black bras better get humble. You better get compliant. And you better start supporting rather than opposing your black men. Because at the end of the day, it's only your black men that stand between you and the pitchforks. It is what it is. You can either choose to work with us or we go into oblivion together. And at this point, at my age, sometimes I really don't care which. Well, with that, I'm going to jump off here. This video has probably been long enough. If you made it to the end where my rant is, I appreciate you subscribing. Even some of you black bras that are hard-headed. This is BGS out, and I will see you guys on the next one. Peace.